War is memory written in fire and shadow, and Hollywood has spent decades trying to capture what real soldiers live through on the ground, in the air, and at sea. But only a handful of films ever earned the quiet nod of veterans who knew the truth firsthand. Today, we count down the rare World War II movies they say Hollywood actually got right. Number 15. Midway, 2019. Veterans often approach modern war films with caution since digital effects can dull the raw weight of real combat. Yet, Midway surprised many by delivering a fierce and grounded portrayal of the Pacific Campaign. It honors the pilots and intelligence teams who shaped the pivotal battle rather than bending history for spectacle. The film follows the unfolding events from intelligence warnings to the desperate aerial duels that helped decide the fate of the Pacific Theater. Veterans praise how the movie treats dive bombing as the violent high-stakes gamble. It truly was portraying pilots plunging toward enemy ships with nothing but skill nerve and the hope that anti-aircraft fire would miss. Technical advisors ensured the flight deck procedures, gear, and radio calls felt authentic, capturing the tension that hung over every mission. The film also gives rare credit to codebreakers, whose work allowed American forces to set an ambush that altered the war. Veterans appreciate how Midway portrays them as part of the same fight, even without carrying rifles. Most importantly, the movie shows courageous men doing their duty without myth-making, turning a legendary victory into something human, fragile, and earned. For many veterans, Midway stands as proof that modern Hollywood can still get World War II right when it listens to history. Number 14. The Great Escape, 1963. Though remembered for its thrilling pace and iconic scenes, The Great Escape draws deep respect from veterans because it captures the spirit of real Allied prisoners who fought back with patience, ingenuity, and an unbreakable will. While some details are streamlined, the movie stays true to the emotional tone of the actual Stalag Luft III breakout. Veterans praise the careful attention to camp hierarchy, stiff discipline, and the quiet acts of resistance that defined POW life. The film shows how prisoners turned boredom into purpose-carving tunnels, reinforcing walls, forging documents, and smuggling tools, all under the watchful eyes of guards who knew escape attempts were constant. Veterans also point to the accuracy in how leadership worked inside the camp, with officers taking responsibility for every man and enforcing structures so morale never collapsed. The movie does not shy from grim truths either. Recaptured escapees faced brutal reprisals, and the film portrays this with a solemn weight that resonates with those who saw similar injustices during the war. The Great Escape endures because it respects both the courage and the cost of defiance, revealing how freedom can become a mission larger than survival. To many veterans, it remains one of Hollywood's truest tributes to the resilience of captive soldiers. Number 13. Patton, 1970. Patton earns veterans' respect, not by glorifying war, but by showing the battlefield as a crucible for human ambition, discipline, and conflict. George C. Scott's portrayal is intense and towering, capturing Patton's brilliance and his flaws without turning him into myth. Veterans admire how the film presents leadership under strain, revealing a commander who pushed his men hard, yet carried the weight of every decision. The movie roots its battles in realism, showing tank warfare as a brutal, deadly chess match, rather than a clean, heroic charge. Veterans praise the authenticity in the tactics formations and grinding logistics that shaped the North African and European campaigns. The film also shows how personality clashes between generals influenced the direction of the war, highlighting the tension between Patton's aggression and the cautious strategies of Allied command. Patton does not simplify its subject. Instead, it portrays a man driven by destiny, wrestling with ego, discipline, and the shifting rules of modern mechanized combat. Veterans appreciate how the movie captures the emotional truth of command, the loneliness of leadership, and the fierce loyalty between soldiers and the officers who lead them. For many, Patton remains one of the clearest cinematic windows into military command during World War II. Number 12. 12 O'Clock High, 1949. Among bomber crews, 12 O'Clock High is spoken of with reverence because it captures something few films attempt: the crushing psychological toll of sustained air combat. Veterans, especially those who flew in B-17 formations, praise its honesty. The film opens with a battered group of airmen facing relentless missions, high casualty rates, and weather that could kill as easily as enemy fire. It follows the arrival of a new commander, tasked with rebuilding discipline and morale among exhausted crews. Veterans say the movie understands leadership as both burden and sacrifice. It captures the fear that builds during long climbs to altitude, the terror of crossing into enemy territory, and the dreadful anticipation of incoming fighter attacks. The movie avoids sentimentality, showing how men pushed themselves until they broke or found strength they never knew they had. Its depiction of tactics, tight formations, and crew coordination feels authentic because many involved in production had flown similar missions. For veterans, 12 O'Clock High stands as one of the truest depictions of the emotional and operational realities of the air war in Europe. Number 11. A Bridge Too Far, 1977. A Bridge Too Far holds a special place among veterans because it confronts the hard truth that courage alone cannot save a flawed plan. The film chronicles Operation Market, guarding the bold Allied attempt to seize a series of bridges in the Netherlands and end the war quickly. Veterans respect how the movie refuses to soften the mission's mistakes, showing airborne troops landing too far from objectives, intelligence warnings ignored, and armored relief forces slowed by narrow roads and fierce resistance. The production consulted survivors and military historians to ensure uniforms, gear, and tactical movements felt legitimate. Veterans also praise its honesty in portraying multinational cooperation and the confusion that arises when units from different nations face shifting battle conditions. The film shows heroism in failure, revealing how soldiers fought with determination even as the operation unraveled. Its large ensemble cast allows viewers to witness the battle from air infantry armor and command perspectives, capturing the full scope of the campaign. For veterans, A Bridge Too Far remains a solemn reminder that even the bravest soldiers can be let down by poor planning and the unpredictable nature of war. Number 10. The Longest Day, 1962. The Longest Day earns deep respect from veterans because it treats D-Day not as a legend, but as a massive human operation shaped by fear, uncertainty, and sacrifice. Rather than focusing on a single hero, the film follows soldiers, paratroopers, sailors, and commanders across multiple fronts, revealing how thousands of small moments shaped the invasion. Veterans appreciate the film's commitment to authenticity. Real officers who took part in the landings offered guidance, and the production recreated uniforms, vehicles, landing craft, and tactics with precision that was rare for its era. The movie shows paratroopers scattered far from their drop zones, infantry pinned down by machine gun fire, and commanders making split-second decisions that could save or doom entire units. Veterans say it captures the chaotic rhythm of real combat, where plans collapse instantly and courage becomes improvisation. The multilingual approach also earns respect since it highlights the German, French, British, and American viewpoints without forcing artificial drama. The Longest Day stands as a tribute to the enormity of Operation Overlord, showing how an almost impossible mission succeeded because ordinary soldiers held their ground against overwhelming odds. For veterans, it remains a benchmark for large-scale World War II, storytelling told with gravity and respect. Number 9. Tora Tora Tora, 1970. Tora 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 is praised by veterans for its unwavering commitment to accuracy in depicting the attack on Pearl Harbor. Unlike many war films, it avoids melodrama and instead presents a meticulous reconstruction of events leading up to the surprise strike. Veterans admire its balanced viewpoint, showing both American and Japanese planning, intelligence work, and operational execution. The production relied heavily on historians, naval officers, and surviving participants to ensure every detail from aircraft formations to communication procedures felt true to history. The film portrays the frustration inside American command as warning signs went unheeded and shows the intense discipline and precision behind the Japanese attack. Veterans often highlight the film's realistic depiction of the chaos at Pearl Harbor as battleships burned, sailors fought to save their crews, and airfields were struck with devastating efficiency. Its emphasis on strategy rather than spectacle makes it one of the most respected portrayals of the early Pacific War. Tora 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 demonstrates how miscommunication, bold leadership, and meticulous planning collided in one of the most pivotal moments of the 20th century. For veterans, it stands as a powerful reminder that understanding history requires seeing it from every side. Number 8. The Bridge on the River Kwai, 1957. The Bridge on the River Kwai holds a complicated yet respected position among veterans. Though not perfectly accurate, it captures the psychological truth of captivity, forced labor, and the battle of wills that defined prisoner of war life in the Pacific. Veterans praise its portrayal of brutal conditions, exhaustion, disease, and the moral dilemmas that confronted Allied prisoners facing a ruthless enemy. The film focuses on the clash between discipline and survival, showing officers struggling to maintain order, dignity, and purpose, even when stripped of freedom. Veterans also respond to the movie's attention to the internal conflict between collaboration and resistance as Allied prisoners are forced to build a bridge for the Japanese war effort. The tension between characters reflects real stories from camps across Southeast Asia, where leadership decisions shaped life and death. The production filmed in harsh jungle conditions, lending authenticity to the sweat, mud, and strain visible in every frame. While veterans acknowledge deviations from historical events, they value how the movie captures the emotional truth of captivity and the psychological endurance required to hold on to identity under relentless pressure. For many, The Bridge on the River Kwai remains a gripping examination of loyalty, duty, and the human spirit in wartime. Number 7. The Thin Red Line, 1998. The Thin Red Line is unlike any other World War II film, and veterans often praise it for capturing the inner terrain of combat, the fear, confusion, and spiritual reckoning that accompany battle. Rather than focusing solely on tactics, the movie dives into the emotional and psychological currents that shape soldiers on the front lines. Set during the Battle of Guadalcanal, it portrays infantry combat with a blend of poetic stillness and brutal sudden violence that many veterans say mirrors their own experiences. The film shows soldiers wrestling with terror-longing memory and the haunting silence between firefights. Veterans often highlight the movie's realistic depiction of small unit tactics, movement through dense foliage, and the unpredictability of Pacific warfare. Terrence Malick's direction strips away triumphalism and instead reveals combat as a clash between human frailty and overwhelming natural forces. Veterans say it captures the moral weight carried by those who survived, as well as the cost paid by those who did not. The Thin Red Line stands as a meditation on war, seen through the eyes of ordinary men confronting extraordinary circumstances, and it remains a powerful reflection of the psychological truth of battle. Number 6. Hacksaw Ridge, 2016. Hacksaw Ridge is widely respected among veterans because its central figure, Desmond Doss, performed acts so astonishing that even Hollywood struggled to capture them. Yet the film remains remarkably faithful to his real heroism. Veterans praise its honest depiction of the chaos and brutality of the Battle of Okinawa, where American forces faced entrenched Japanese defenders, fierce artillery barrages, and close-quarter combat. The movie shows medics navigating firestorms to reach wounded men, reflecting the real terror and courage required to save lives under constant threat. Unlike many war films, it highlights the moral convictions of a soldier who refused to carry a weapon, yet repeatedly risked death to save dozens of comrades. Veterans admire how the movie portrays Doss not as a symbol, but as a man whose quiet resolve shaped extraordinary actions. The production consulted historians and surviving veterans to ensure authenticity in uniforms, tactics, and battlefield geography. Hacksaw Ridge reminds viewers that heroism takes many forms and that bravery can exist without violence. For veterans, it stands as a profound testament to the strength of conviction and the human capacity to endure under unimaginable pressure. Number 5. Das Boot, 1981. Das Boot holds near legendary status among submarine veterans because it captures the exact rhythm, pressure, and terror of underwater warfare. Where many films turn submarine duty into fantasy, Das Boot shows the tight steel corridors soaked in sweat and diesel, the constant thrum of engines, and the dread that rises every time the hull groans under depth charge assault. Veterans praise the film's technical precision. Procedures are executed as they were in real U-boats, from crash dives to silent running drills to the frantic struggle to repair machinery in the dark. The movie portrays the crew not as caricatures, but as men trapped inside a metal coffin, battling exhaustion, fear, and the constant threat of drowning or implosion. Veterans frequently point out that the film understands the emotional toll of long patrols, where boredom shifts into sudden mortal danger, and every decision must be perfect. Its refusal to romanticize the mission earns deep respect. Das Boot presents its characters as human beings facing the unforgiving mathematics of war, where one mistake means death for all aboard. For submarine veterans, it remains the closest any film has come to revealing life beneath the waves during World War II. Number 4. Letters from Iwo Jima, 2006. Letters from Iwo Jima receives rare admiration from veterans of many nations because it tells the Pacific War from the Japanese perspective without demonizing or distorting the truth. The film follows General Tadamichi Kuribayashi and his soldiers as they prepare for the American assault, knowing their chances of survival are almost non-existent. Veterans praise its portrayal of defensive strategy cave warfare and the suffocating tension that ruled every hour on the island. The movie shows soldiers writing letters home, sharing fears and clinging to dignity, even as supplies dwindled and bombardment intensified. Rather than simplifying the enemy, it reveals individuals torn between duty loyalty and the instinct to survive. Veterans also honor the film for confronting the brutal reality that many Japanese soldiers died without ever seeing their families again. Letters from Iwo Jima carries emotional weight because it reminds viewers that humanity exists on every side of war. Its honesty, humility, and immersion in the physical and psychological hardship of battle make it one of the most respected portrayals of World War II from any viewpoint. Number 3. The Big Red One, 1980. The Big Red One stands apart because its director, Samuel Fuller, served in the actual 1st Infantry Division, giving the film a ground-level authenticity that veterans instantly recognize. Rather than constructing a grand narrative, the movie follows a small squad through North Africa, Italy, and Europe, revealing war as a series of moments, one grim, one absurd, and one terrifying, after another. Veterans praise its rawness. There are no polished speeches or heroic poses, just soldiers trying to survive while carrying out orders they do not always understand. The film captures fatigue, hunger, and the eerie quiet that often precedes violence. Veterans appreciate how Fuller portrays leadership. The sergeant is stern yet protective, a figure shaped by loss and hardened by responsibility. The movie also reflects the strange humor that soldiers use to endure trauma, the jokes whispered in foxholes, the camaraderie that keeps men going when everything else collapses. For veterans, The Big Red One feels true because it is built from memory, not myth. Fuller filmed what he lived, and the result is a portrait of infantry combat that still resonates decades later. Number 2. Band of Brothers, 2001. Band of Brothers remains the benchmark for authenticity in portraying American airborne troops during World War II. Veterans and historians alike praise its near-flawless attention to tactics, uniforms, weapons, leadership structure, and emotional truth. The series follows Easy Company from training at Camp Tokoa through Normandy, Holland, Bastogne, and the final push into Germany. Veterans often say the jump sequences capture the disorientation shock and scattered chaos that airborne soldiers truly faced. The combat scenes show small unit tactics executed under fear and fatigue, from clearing trenches to holding defensive lines under impossible odds. Veterans also respect how the series portrays leadership, the weight officers carried, the failures they confronted, and the loyalty that grew within the company. Survivors of Easy Company participated in production, ensuring accuracy in everything from foxhole layout to battlefield dialogue. For veterans, Band of Brothers stands as a moving tribute, not only because it recreates battles, but because it honors the emotional bonds forged in war bonds that lasted lifetimes. It remains one of the most faithful and human portrayals of combat ever filmed. Number 1. Saving Private Ryan, 1998. Saving Private Ryan holds the top place among veterans because it transformed how Hollywood portrays combat. The opening D-Day sequence stunned real soldiers who said it was the first time a film captured the terror, noise, confusion, and sheer brutality of amphibious assault. Veterans praise the accuracy of weapons behavior, landing craft conditions, communications breakdowns, and small unit movement under fire. The film goes beyond spectacle by showing the moral weight of every choice, the burden leaders carry, and the fear that sits inside every man, no matter how brave he appears. Veterans say its depiction of close-quarter combat, building to building and field to field, reflects the grim reality infantry units faced across Europe. The movie also understands exhaustion, how soldiers stumble forward not from heroism but from duty, and the will to protect those beside them. Saving Private Ryan changed cinematic language by grounding its visuals in grit, chaos, and human fragility. For veterans, it remains the most honest portrayal of what the war demanded from ordinary men thrown into extraordinary violence. World War II left scars on every nation, and only a few films earn the respect of those who lived its fire. These stories stand apart because they honor truth, duty, and the human cost of survival. Remember their lessons and let history speak through those who carried its weight.